All right, this video is for 11.1. It's going to talk about quadratic equations. Now, quadratic equation has a degree of 2, meaning the highest exponent is 2. This is standard form. A is always with the x squared, B is always with the x, C is alone. The graph is called a parabola or is U-shaped, where it either points up or down. Vertex is, we use the letters HK. That's just for the highest or the lowest point. So the bottom or the top of that U. Axis of symmetry is H equals X. That's the equation for it. It's just a vertical line through the vertex, where you can fold the graph. For example, here, we can fold the graph and it's symmetrical on both sides. So that would be the axis of symmetry. So for this first graph, the vertex is this point right here, which if we use our coordinates is 1, -3. Our axis of symmetry is that blue line, so it's just x equals 1. And the U points up, so it opens up. This equation, same thing. Our vertex is right here, the top, 2, 4. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 2. And this one goes down, so it points down. So your quick overview. Now, when you have standard form, you can find the vertex by using this formula. H equals -b over 2a. Then you plug that in to get k, because remember up here we said our vertex was h comma k. So using this first one, we're going to say h equals -b over 2a. So it's the opposite of b. B here is -4, so I'm going to put in +4. And then a is 2, so instead of a, I'm going to write 2. Now I do that multiplication. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 divided by 4 is 1, so h equals 1. To get k, I just plug it into that original equation for x. So I'm going to write 2 times 1 squared minus 4 times 1 plus 1. 1 squared is 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 1 is 4. And then we add those. So 2 minus 4 is -2 plus 1 is -1. So that gives us our k. So our vertex is 1, -1. You can find the vertex of all three of these using the same formula. You just want to make sure it's in standard form first. So try them. Let me know if you need help by sending me an email, watch a video, check it out, see how you did. So this first one, our a is going to be 1 because that's what's in front of there. And there is no x term, so that means b is 0. So a equals the opposite of 0, which is 0, over 2 times a. And 0 divided by anything is 0. K, we just plug the 0 in for x, so we get -1. So our vertex for this first one is 0, -1. This middle one here, we have to make it standard form before we can use that information. So a squared means we have 2 of these parentheses. So I'm going to FOIL that. So x times x is x squared. X times 1 is x. 1 times x is x. 1 times 1 is 1. And then I'm going to distribute that negative sign. So I'm going to bring that to everything. So I get -x squared minus x minus 1. And then I'm going to combine like terms. So we get -x squared minus 2x minus 1. So that's our equation in standard form. Now we can do the opposite of b over 2 times a, which is -1. 2 times -1 is -2. And 2 divided by -2 is -1. Then we go back to our original equation up here and plug -1 in for x. So -1 plus 1 is 0. 0 squared is 0, and 0 is still negative. So our point is -1, 0. Now this last one's already in standard form. So we can go straight to the opposite of b over 2 times a. 2 times 1 is 2. And -4 divided by 2 is -2. Then we do the equation, but instead of x, we put that -2 we just found. -2 squared is 4. 4 times -2 is -8. 4 plus -8 is -4, plus 3 is -1, making our vertex -2, -1. I promise there will not always be a -1. These 3 just all happen to have it. All right, let's keep going. Now we can graph them. Easiest way to graph is to plug it right into your graphing calculator. So we're going to use the y equals button, and we're just going to type those in exactly as is. So y equals, I'm going to clear out what's in there. So this first one, the blue, is x squared minus 1. Second one, I'm going to put negative parentheses, x plus 1, close parentheses, squared. And then the last one is black. So I'm going to type x squared plus 4x plus 3. And then I'm going to hit zoom 6. I don't understand what's going on with my graph. Zoom 6. Window. There we go. I don't know what happened there. We had a moment. And you can see the graphs. So the blue one points up. The red one points down. And the black one points up but has moved over a little bit. If we wanted to find the vertex using the graph, we're going to use the max min button. So I'm going to see if I can just turn them off for a minute. Yes. Okay. So if we just had the blue one, I'm going to hit second, which is the blue button, trace, which is up on the top row, and I'm going to choose minimum because it's the bottom of the curve. So for this one, I'm going to choose minimum. And then it's going to ask you a left, a right, a guess. So you're going to move your little arrow somewhere to the left of the minimum. You're going to move it somewhere to the right of the minimum. And then it'll give you your X, Y down here at the bottom. If you're using this app, it'll just say minimum. If you're using a graphing calculator, it'll say X and Y. So the vertex of this first one is 0, -1. If I did the second one, same thing, second trace. This time I'm just going to choose 4 because it's a maximum. Move that little X spider thing to the left, move it to the right, and it doesn't matter how close or far, and it gives me my maximum. So for this one, it's -1, 0. And for the last one, I'm just going to show you, you can have both of them on the screen at the same time. You just want to make sure that you're working with the graph you want. So left, right, and then it gives me the minimum. Notice how here it's in the color black. So that's telling us that this minimum is -2, -1. So that's how we just found that on the calculator. All right, increasing and decreasing. So when you move to the right, if you go up, it's increasing. So y increases as x increases. If you're going down, it's decreasing. So the y decreases as x increases. So on this graph, from this point, from the vertex right, it's increasing. It's going up. If I wanted to write that in intercept form, it starts at an x value of 0 and goes up forever. The decreasing is the other side. Even though the arrow's pointing up, as I move to the right, the graph is getting lower. So to write that in interval notation, we say from -infinity until 0. All right, let's look at a problem here. The graph of s of x equals -6.25x plus 50x is shown. Use the vertex formula to determine the number of slices that result in maximum satisfaction. So the part that isn't typed here is this shows people like the number of pieces of pizza they ate and their satisfaction. So here we're saying the more you eat, the better you feel, and then you're perfectly satisfied. And then if you eat too much, you start to not feel good. That's kind of what this graph is showing. So maximum would be the vertex right here. So we can use the vertex formula. Again, that's our A, that's our B. So H equals -B over 2A. And 6 times negative 6.25 is negative 12.5. And negative 50 divided by negative 12.5 is 4. So four slices gives us the maximum. Again, this graph's opening down, so we have a max. When the graph points up, we have a lowest point, which would be our minimum. So if you're asked to find the maximum or the minimum value, you're doing the vertex, they just want the y value. So same thing, h equals negative b over 2a. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Then we plug that in. So 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3. So if we put those in the calculator, we get negative 1. So our minimum y value is negative 1. All right, let's look at this. A baseball is hit into the air, and its height in feet after t seconds can be calculated with this equation. So what is the height of the baseball when it's hit? So when we're hitting, it's initial. It's our initial value. It's right when we're starting. So it's when t equals 0. So if we plug 0 in here and 0 in here, we're left with 3. So what it's saying is this person's standing here holding a bat, hitting a baseball, and then the ball's going to go flying. It's 3 feet right here when the ball gets hit. That's what this is saying. Now, determine the maximum height. So we're looking to see how high it goes. So using our equation, opposite of b over 2a, 2 times negative 16 is negative 32, and negative 96 divided by negative 32 is 3. So that would be at 3 seconds. Now we plug that 3 in to figure out how high. So wherever we see a t, we put a 3. If I type that in the calculator, it gets 147 feet. So at 3 seconds, the ball is 147 feet high, and that's the highest it gets. A hotel gives the following group discount on room rates. The regular price for a room is $80. But for each room rented, the price decreases by $2. A graph of the revenue is shown. Interpret the graph. So at 0, they make $0. And then as you rent rooms, they make more and more money, but the price is decreasing. So at some point, they're going to start making less money again because they're not going to get enough per room. And then here they get 0 because they're charging $0. So in interpretation, based on what we talked about in this section, is that it increases, so the income increases, then decreases. So at some point, either the rooms are too expensive for people to buy them, or you're not charging enough money. So let's look at this. What is the max revenue, and how many rooms should be rented to receive the max? So right here, this would be our max revenue. If we looked at the graph, it looks at like 20,300, or nope, 800, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's what the graph looks like. Let's try to make an equation. We know that it's $80 per room. And then for each room that we add, oops, what am I doing? All right, so it's $80 per room. That's the initial, x times 80. If we add a room, we're decreasing. So for every room we add, we decrease $2. So we still have that initial price, number of rooms, but then we're going to decrease them. So here again, our number of rooms, and then the cost plus how it changes. That's what those numbers represent. If I were to multiply that out or distribute, we'd get 80x minus 2x squared. So A is negative 2, B is 80, because remember, it depends on which letter, which x term it's with. So we want to do our max revenue. Negative B over 2A. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 80 divided by 4 is 20. So that matches what we found on the graph. 20 rooms would be the max revenue. And then if we plugged that in, so 20 times 80 minus 2 times 20. So 2 times 20 is 40. 80 minus 40 is 40. And 20 times 40 is 800. So you can do it with the graph or the equation. And then use f of x, so that's this equation we just found right here, to determine symbolically the maximum revenue in the number of rooms. So that is using the equation. I kind of combined that. So B, we use the graph. I did that right here. Then we wrote the formula right there. And then we did the math over here to see if it matched the graph. That is 11.1. Let me know if you have any questions.